Welcome back. We're going to go to 1 Nephi chapter 4. We're going to try to pull out that search, analyze, and apply this chapter to ourselves. So if you've already read it, keep going. If you haven't, pause it. Spoiler alert, they are going to get the plates. Nephi and his brothers have left. Remember, we're going to get this big picture. They've left Jerusalem. Not left physically the city. They're just outside Jerusalem. They got chased out by the guards of Laban. Nephi's like, we're not giving up, right? Like, I just gave Dad a really great speech, and we're not going to give up. No, because the Lord wants us to do this, so we have to go back and get it. His brothers are like, we have tried everything. He's taken everything we've got. He's tried to kill us. He's thrown us out. There's no way we can get these. He says, I'm going to go. And I'm going to go just on faith. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this. He goes in. As he goes in, he happens upon this man who's laying in the street, who's drunk, and his name happens to be Laban. So he has a back and forth with the Spirit. I love that back and forth because he talks about these feelings in his heart and in his mind. He talks about remembering things and thinking about these words. And, as he talks about this heart and this mind back and forth, it reminds me of Doctrine and Covenants where the Lord says, I'm going to tell you in your heart and in your mind. And that's what Nephi has. He has the Spirit speaking to him at this point in time. I can't kill this man. I feel like I'm constrained to. I've never killed anybody, right? And so he does it. He kills him, he puts on his clothes, and he starts heading to the treasury where the plates are kept. On the way to the treasury, he's going to meet a man named Zoram who happens to have the keys to the treasury. Do you see how the Lord works all this out? He says, let's go. I need the plates, in the voice of Laban. Nephi is speaking. And the servant goes in there. He gets the plates. I love that Nephi, he goes to the treasury and the only thing he gets is plates. He doesn't get back any of the stuff that's been stolen. I bet his brothers would have been really happy about that. But he's just on that mission from the Lord. I just need the plates, and I think that tells us a lot about the kind of man Nephi was. So then they start heading outside of town, Zoram and Nephi. Nephi calls out to his brothers. Zoram realizes it's not Laban. He jumps on top of him, holds him down, and finally we end with Zoram saying, dude, get off. I'll be a free man. I'm not going to go back and tell anybody. So that is the recap of chapter 4. Now, after I've searched it, I got my big picture. There was a phrase that jumped out to me when I read this, and it is in verse 2. And it says, let us be strong like unto Moses. And I have my little principle P right there. And I've got it up here. I have two. I have this one. There's another principle that I had found, but this is the one I want to focus on. And my principle is we are more than we think we are. And I thought about this when I started thinking about Moses. Because Nephi's trying to convince his brothers. He's like, remember the scriptures, remember the faith, remember the miracles that the Lord's done. Let us be strong like Moses. And I thought about when Moses was called to be a prophet, because that is really when we start to see Moses. We watch him bring the children of Israel out, wander in the wilderness for 40 years. And so I thought, well, I want to start where Moses became this amazing prophetic prophet Moses. So I have a reference right at the top here of Exodus chapter 3, verse 1, and it goes through Exodus chapter 4, verse 18. We are not going to read it all. I'm just going to pull out 2 verses. And we're only going to focus on one scripture because I had some requests to slow down some of the references and try to make it a little bit clearer. So Moses is keeping the flocks of Jethro. He goes up to the mountain. He sees a bush burning. And he talks about leaving the path he was on, turning aside and going to the bush. And I picture this as Moses leaving the path he originally wanted to walk, knowing that God is calling him and he will have to take another path. And he talks about turning aside. So, different picture aside, great little insight into that experience with Moses. And the Lord begins to call and says, I am, right? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac and Jacob. Remember the fathers. I want you to go down. You need to deliver my children from Egypt. I am going to help you. You're going to bring them out. And Moses, in verse 11 of chapter 3, says, and Moses said unto God, who am I that I should go unto the Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And I thought, well, Moses, you are just a prince raised in Egypt. If anybody should go in front of the Pharaoh and ask, to me it made sense. And then I thought, well, Aubrey, hold on, back it up. He right now he's before God, and he's realizing his nothingness. Like, it doesn't matter what the world's giving me, I am nothing, and now you want me to go before the Pharaoh. And so that was my first clue. I was like, oh, Moses doesn't really feel ready for this. And then I kept going, and this is chapter 4, and Moses is now going to give his reason for why he doesn't feel ready for this. And it is verse 10 of chapter 4. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, so I haven't been before, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant. Lord, since you've been talking to me, and even way before that, I am not eloquent. And you want me to go before the Pharaoh? But I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And I thought, Moses didn't think he was strong. So why does Nephi think he's strong? And Nephi, who is now looking at the scriptures way back, right? This is hundreds of years after Moses. And now that Nephi sees the whole picture of Moses, he thinks of Moses as a strong man. And so I thought about that more and more, and I thought, we're more than we think we are. All we see is our shortcomings. All we see is our weaknesses. But the Lord, who calls us, sees more that we are. He sees more. He sees what we can become. He sees our true potential. So although Moses thought he was nothing, God thought he could do anything. And later on, Moses is mentioned throughout the scriptures over and over and over again as this amazing prophet who started out feeling completely worthless, like he couldn't do anything. And no matter how weak we think we are, we have to remember that we're sons and daughters of God, and that God can do more with us than we can with ourselves. And that we're more than we think we are. And when we turn aside and follow God's way, we will become strong, and we will become great examples to those who will follow after us. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.